Samuel Majekadumi at guard. Sid Brown in the backcourt as well. And inside for Albright, it'll be Isaiah Harris and Alessio Dancy. Lions playing their second home game here of the season. They opened the year with an 83-78 win over Penn State Berks. That was back on November 11th, right here inside the Bowman Center. And this is part of a stretch. The Lions will play 2 straight home games as they'll be right back here in Reading to host the Eastern University Eagles on Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. Just a few moments away from tip right here inside the Bowman Center. My name is Joe Fitzhenry, and thanks for tuning in on the Albright Sports Network tonight, where the Albright Lions again getting set to take on the Franklin and Marshall Diplomats. Franklin and Marshall picked up an 81-74 victory over Albright last season down in Lancaster. That was the season opener for both teams last year. In fact, the Diplomats have won 5 of the last 6 in the series, and this will also be the 7th straight season that the 2 teams have met. As now Albright takes the court, and we're just a few moments away from opening tip here at the Bowman Center on the campus of Albright College in Reading. It'll be Matt Redhead taking the opening tip, taking the opening jump for Franklin and Marshall. Across from junior big man Isaiah Harris. Harris, native of Edgewater, New Jersey, for the Lions. Been into a starting role for Albright this season, did Harris, after the graduation of Jared Rappaport. Again, Albright at 2-1 on the year. Franklin and Marshall at 1-1. Now we're supposed to have for opening tip. Tonight's officials are Joseph Brogan, Joey Switzer, and Greg Anastopoulos. Redhead and Harris go up for the jump. Jump is controlled by D'Alessio Dancy for Albright. As Dancy controls the tip, brings it across the half-court line, gives it back to Troy Smoot Jr. in the backcourt. Over to Sid Brown, to Smoot Jr., who pulls up from about 18 feet. Shot is no good, it rims out. Rebound by Slika. Slika gives it over to Mike Rice. Rice now over to Matt Redhead. Inside to Justin Koopa. It's Koopa guarded by Smoot Jr. beyond the arc. Now goes inside the arc. The little dish inside to Redhead. Trying to find somewhere to go with it. Dishes off. Stolen by Dancy. He's got Majekadumi the out pass. It's turned over, and it'll be corralled by Justin Koopa as F&M gets the ball back here. Still 0-0, just about 50 seconds into tonight's contest. Slika with it on the wing. Over to Redhead for the jumper, who drains it from the left wing for 2. And Franklin and Marshall takes the early 2-0 lead. As Dancy inbounds to Troy Smoot Jr., gives it right back to Dancy. He'll give it back to Smoot Jr. Inside to Harris, tries to go to work on Redhead. Tries to back him down. He goes up. He'll step on the out-of-bound line, says the official. So that'll give it back to the Diplomats. 18:44 to play here in the first half. F&M has an early 2-0 lead over the Albright Lions. So now bringing it across the timeline for Franklin and Marshall is Mike Rice. Over to Les Thomas. Inside to Slika. A nice look. Now it's turned over. He tried to force it inside to Redhead. Corralled by Isaiah Harris, who gives it to Samuel Majekadumi. Majekadumi, the pull-up fast break jumper, no good. Rebound by Thomas. Mike Rice playing the point tonight. Gives it right to Redhead just inside the arc. Another steal here, this one by Troy Smoot Jr. He's got a 3-on-2 fast break for a moment. Dancy thinks about the 3. He thinks better of it. Now will drive inside. Gives it back out to Sidney Brown, who pulls up for 3. This one's no good. The rebound is controlled by Les Thomas, number 11 for the Diplomats. Diplomats wearing blue jerseys tonight, Albright in their home whites. As now Justin Koopa gives it out to Matt Redhead beyond the arc. Good defense there by D'Alessio Dancy. Almost another turnover. It's rescued at the last moment by Koopa, who pulls up for 2. It is good, and the Diplomats have a 4-0 lead. With 17:30 to go here in the first half. As now turned it over. Smoot was trying to give it to Dancy. Turnover picked up by Ignis Slika, who gets the layup to roll for 2. He gets the friendly roll. There did Slika. And now Franklin and Marshall has a 6-0 lead. Dancy across the timeline for Albright. Dancy gives it over to Sidney Brown. He's got a look in the corner. Now steps inside the arc. No good. Brown gets his own rebound. He goes up and under for two. He gets the roll, and it's good, and Albright's on the board. Nice play there by Sidney Brown, who makes the pull-up jumper, was able to get his own rebound, and got the layup to go. Koopa with it on the wing. Gives it back out to Mike Rice. He thinks about the three. Now he drives inside. He gets the round. Brown, who was walled up near the basket, and the Diplomats have an 8-2 lead. DeLacio Dancy playing most of the point guard for Albright in the early going. Off to Brown. Inside to Isaiah Harris, who's fouled on the way up. Harris is going to go to the line here and shoot two. Foul is charged to Matt Redhead. That's his first. We're going to have an early sub here, it appears, for Franklin and Marshall, as Brian Hines is going to check in and see reports to the scorer's table. Harris at the line for the first of two shots. First one is good. As now the aforementioned Brian Hines is going to check in for Matt Redhead. Harris, the second of two, is no good. Rebound by Troy Smoot Jr. Out to Dancy. Thinks about the three. Now he gives it back out to Harris, who goes around Brian Hines. He goes up and under. The layup's good, and he draws the foul. Nice play by Isaiah Harris, who fought for the offensive rebound after it had been controlled by Troy Smoot Jr. Was able to get right around Brian Hines. Hines forced Hines into the foul a little bit. As now Hines will take a quick seat. And Matt Grohl checks into the game. Grohl number 34, as the and one from Harris is good. So the junior from Edgewater, New Jersey, completes the three-point play. And it's 8-6, Franklin and Marshall with 16:15 to go in the first half. Quickly up the court here is Koopa. He goes in as his shot deflected. It goes back out to Les Thomas. Thomas now with it beyond the arc to Mike Rice. Over to Ignas Slika. Now inside to Thomas, who drives the baseline and gets the layup to go for two. Under the 16-minute mark here, 10-6 Diplomats over the Albright Lions in the early going. As Dancy with it. He's guarded by Mike Rice, and Sam Majekadumi tried to set a pick right there. Majekadumi is called for the illegal screen. As now Sean Miller, freshman for Albright, will check in, while Solomon Mathis will check in for the Diplomats. 15:52 to go in the first half. Franklin and Marshall has a 10-6 lead. And now quickly with it is Solomon Mathis, who just checked in. Over to Rice. Over to Slika, who has space beyond the arc. He buries the three. And Franklin and Marshall out to a 13-6 lead. Slika came off the screen right there, was able to find space for the three. Sean Miller with it. Over to DeLacio Dancy, who's guarded by Rice beyond the three-point line. Dancy, a little floater in the lane, no good. He gets his own rebound, tries to dish it off to Harris, but it finds the hands of Les Thomas, who brings it up the court for the Diplomats. Over to Solomon Mathis. Over now to Les Thomas. To Rice in the corner. Now the baseline pass slips off the hands of Solomon Mathis just near the Albright bench, and he'll give it right back to the Lions. Again, my name is Joe Fitzhenry, and thanks for tuning in tonight here on the Albright Sports Network. Troy Smoot Jr. will inbound here. He gives it to the freshman, Sean Miller. Miller from Sicklerville, New Jersey. He played at Timber Creek High School. Gives it off to Dancy with a little bounce pass. Now to Majekadumi beyond the arc. Majekadumi took an extra step right there, so he's called for the travel. It's another turnover for the Lions, who give it right back to Franklin and Marshall. 14:48 to play in the first half. And the Diplomats lead at 13-6. Mike Rice now playing the point for Franklin Marshall, guarded by Dancy. Bounce pass over to Solomon Mathis. Mathis dishes it out to Les Thomas. Thomas trying to find space. Good defense there by Troy Smoot Jr. Nearly forces a turnover. Now with 8 seconds to go on the shot clock, Solomon Mathis with it. Off in the corner to Thomas. Three-pointer's no good. The rebound is controlled by Matt Grohl. Grohl now. Back out to Justin Koopa. It's Koopa guarded by Harris. The pull-up jumper's no good. Another offensive rebound for Grohl, who goes back up with this one. The two-pointer is good, and Franklin and Marshall leads it 15-6. Quickly out on the break here is Troy Smoot Jr. Off to Harris. Now back behind the arc to Majekadumi. He's guarded closely by Thomas. Majekadumi tried to draw a foul. Did not get it. It's turned right back over to Les Thomas. Quickly off to Mike Rice. Rice is fouled now on his way to the basket. As Rice will inbound it right here. First, a couple of subs for Albright, as Blake Thompson and Dion Booker will check in for the Lions. And taking a seat here are DeLacio Dancy and Troy Smoot Jr. With 13:47 to go here in the first half inside the Bowman Center in Reading, Franklin and Marshall has a 15-6 lead over the Albright Lions. And we'll be right back here on the Albright Sports Network. Back here on the Albright Sports Network, my name is Joe Fitzhenry. Rejoin the action. Mike Rice inbounds to Justin Koopa on the baseline. Koopa guarded closely by Majekadumi. Gives it inside to Matt Redhead, who just checked in again for the Diplomats. Redhead goes up. The hook shot's no good. They fight for the rebound with Isaiah Harris. It'll be a jump ball, and the possession arrow will stay with Franklin and Marshall. Good battle there between Redhead and Harris for the rebound. Now Rice will inbound once again from the baseline. Koopa tries to free up space for Majekadumi. Instead, he gives it inside to Redhead. Right back out to Rice, who pulls up for three. It's no good. Rebound corralled by Dion Booker. Booker on the outlet pass to Sean Miller. Miller goes between a couple of defenders. Inside to Isaiah Harris. Tries to go around Grohl. Harris does draw the foul. And now they're going to inbound here from the baseline. That is Grohl's first foul. And now checking in for the Lions is Corey Simmons. Simmons, a sophomore from Poughkeepsie, New York, but at Poughkeepsie High School did Simmons. As now Sean Miller emails to Majekadumi. He's fouled in the corner there. He was kind of stuck in between Grohl and Justin Koopa there on the baseline, just in front of the Diplomats bench. Majekadumi was able to draw the foul. It's a fourth team foul on Franklin and Marshall. Les Thomas took a quick seat during the timeout. Now he'll check back in for Mike Rice. Inbounding on the baseline for Albright is Sean Miller. Tries to find Majekadumi. Instead, he gives it inside to Corey Simmons. Tries to find space around Grohl. Instead, he tries to flip a pass to Dion Booker. It's corralled by Matt Redhead. Quickly gives it off to Solomon Mathis. Now over to Les Thomas on the wing. Thomas inside to Redhead, who's guarded by Dion Booker. Over in the corner to Les Thomas, who pops the three. It is good, that was Justin Koopa on the three, number 3 there. And Franklin and Marshall has an 18-6 lead with 12:50 to go in the first half. Miller inside to Corey Simmons. Simmons trying to find space to go. Good defense there by Grohl. Now to sophomore Blake Thompson beyond the arc. Off to Majekadumi. Majekadumi with 8 seconds showing on the shot clock. He's guarded closely by Koopa. Tries to dribble around him. The nice spin pass in the corner. Dion Booker off to Blake Thompson for the three. It's no good. They say it hit the top there near the shot clock. So the ball will go back to Franklin and Marshall. It was nice passing there from Majekadumi to Booker to Blake Thompson, who had a good look at the three. Just was unable to connect. As now checking into the game for Franklin and Marshall is Jaka Panza. Panza is a sophomore from Maribor, Slovenia. Seeing his first action here tonight for head coach Nick Nishe's squad. Again, Nishe in his first season as the interim head coach at Franklin and Marshall. Justin Koopa has it on the wing over to Solomon Mathis. Now inside to Redhead. Back out to Mathis. Good defense here by Albright. As Panza drives inside the little pull-up jumper, he kisses it off the glass. It is good. Nice look there by Jakob Panza. Good action off the dribble. Sean Miller, closely guarded by Justin Kupa. Kupa tries to dish inside to Corey Simmons. Foul is called on Matt Redhead. It looks like it's on Redhead. Confirm that here in just a second. Indeed, it will be. It's going to be the second foul on Matt Redhead, as now Brian Hines will check into the game. Hines playing for his hometown school. He's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and played high school ball at Manheim Township. Blake Thompson off the inbound to Corey Simmons, who gets the up and under to go for two. Nice look there from sophomore to sophomore, Thompson to Simmons. And Albright tries to cut into this lead now at 20-8. Brian Hines with it. Over to Justin Kupa on the wing. Kupa guarded by Sidney Brown. Good defense there by Brown. Now back out to Panza beyond the arc. Panza stolen by Majeka Dumi. Great defense there by Albright. Majeka Dumi loses it on the fast break, and it's controlled by Les Thomas, as Franklin and Marshall had 4-on-3 there for a minute. Now the defense settles in for the Lions. Mathis over to Justin Kupa, to Jakob Panza, and now to Les Thomas beyond the arc. There's now Kupa, once again guarded by Brown. 10 seconds showing on the shot clock for the Diplomats. Solomon Mathis inside to Les Thomas to Kupa as the shot clock expires. Jumper's no good. Rebound controlled by Corey Simmons. Nice board there by Simmons, who had to fight off Brian Hines for that rebound. Simmons gives it to Majeka Dumi, who pulls up for three. It's no good. Good defense there by Les Thomas. As now Majeka Dumi is going to take a quick seat, and Troy Smoot Jr. re-enters the game for Albright. And now Matt Grohl will also re-enter the game for the Diplomats. Scroll to Solomon Mathis. Mathis brings it across the timeline, guarded by Sidney Brown. To Grohl, who's guarded by his opposite number, 34, Corey Simmons. Now a good look inside there from Grohl to Mathis, back to Grohl inside, who gets the easy layup to go for two. Franklin and Marshall has a 22-8 lead as we near the halfway point of this first half. Blake Thompson with it on the wing, guarded by Solomon Mathis. To Sidney Brown, the junior. Brown, the little fake there for a moment, off to Troy Smoot Jr. On the baseline to Blake Thompson with 8 seconds to shoot. Thompson will lose it in transition. Quickly hustles back. Les Thomas has it. He'll go up for the layup. It's no good. The rebound by Blake Thompson. Now that was a bit of a frustration foul there from Les Thomas. So Thomas got the steal initially after Blake Thompson lost on the opposite end. Thompson hustled back, was able to get the rebound after Thomas missed the layup. Great fight there from the sophomore Blake Thompson. And now drew the foul on Les Thomas. As now Jakob Panza takes a seat for the Diplomats. And Ignas Slika will check back in for Franklin and Marshall. Troy Smoot Jr. off to Sidney Brown. Back to Smoot Jr. beyond the arc. The three-pointer is off the mark. No good. They'll let it roll out of bounds. And there might be a foul there as well. Indeed there is. Smoot Jr. was trying to fight for the rebound, was called for the foul. That's the first there on Smoot Jr., the junior guard from Glen Burnie, Maryland. As now Robert Mangum is going to check in for the Lions. Mangum will check in for Troy Smoot Jr. Mike Rice, guarded by Sidney Brown, brings it across the half-court line for the Diplomats. Rice, guarded by Brown, has played good defense a number of occasions tonight. Dishes off to Justin Kupa. Kupa tries to force it inside. Now gives it back to Rice. Over to Slika. Now off to Les Thomas, 10 seconds to shoot. To Kupa on the corner. He tries to drive baseline. He'll get up and go for the layup. Nice play there from Justin Kupa, who was able to just beat Blake Thompson there on the layup. And now we're going to have another timeout right here with 9:04 to play in the first half. Franklin and Marshall has a 24-8 lead over Albright. Diplomats have shot really well from the field here in the early stages to get you here a shooting percentage. In fact, Franklin and Marshall is 11 of their first 17 from the floor, as opposed to Albright, who's just 3 of 11 from the floor thus far. Again, with 9:04 to play in the first half, Franklin and Marshall leads Albright 24-8. We'll take a quick break and be right back here on the Albright Sports Network. Back inside the Bowman Center here on the Albright Sports Network. My name is Joe Fitzhenry, here with you tonight as the Albright Lions take on the Franklin and Marshall Diplomats. Freshman Robert Mangum inbound to DeLacio Dancy, who just checked back in for head coach Rick Ferry's squad. Dancy guarded by Mike Rice. The little floater in the lane, he gets it to go. Nice move there by DeLacio Dancy. It was good defense by Rice, but not much he could do there. It's a heck of a play by Dancy. Albright cuts the lead to 14 at 24-10. Matt Grohl with it now. Gives it off to Les Thomas, who's guarded by Mangum. Off to Ignis Slika, who drives inside, tried to force the pass to Grohl. It's stolen away by Sidney Brown. A 3-on-2 break for the Lions. He gives it off to Jordan Guerrero. Now inside to Corey Simmons, who gets the layup to go for two. Fast break, nicely executed there by Albright, as Brown gave it off to freshman Jordan Guerrero, inside to Corey Simmons, who had the easy look off the glass. The Lions are within 12 at 24-12. Now a foul is called here in the backcourt. It's like Justin Koopa drew the foul from the freshman Robert Mangum. Isaiah Harris checks back in here for Corey Simmons. Some nice minutes for Simmons off the bench for Rick Ferry's club. Simmons with 4 of Albright's 12 points here. It's about halfway, just over the halfway mark in the first half. For Les Thomas in the corner to Koopa, to Ignis Slika. Good defense there by Guerrero. Off to Koopa in the corner. 3-pointers off the mark. The rebound's controlled by Les Thomas for a moment, but he lost control. He dribbled it off his foot, and he'll give it right back to Albright. 7:58 to play in the first half. Franklin and Marshall has a 24-12 lead over the Albright Lions. Sidney Brown inbounds here to Robert Mangum. Thomas picks up his defense in the backcourt. Mangum brings it across the half-court line. Mangum trying to get around Thomas. Now picks up his dribble. Gives it off to Sidney Brown. Who's looked at by Koopa. Off to DeLacio Dancy. Dancy gives it inside to Harris, who had space for a second. Thomas quickly had to recover and was forced to foul the junior big man Isaiah Harris for the Lions. That's the first foul on Thomas. The team's 6th on the Diplomats. And now Brian Hines will check back into the game for Matt Grohl. Now DeLacio Dancy will inbound from under the basket. Trying to look for somewhere to go with it. The 5 seconds is called right there. It was good defense by Mike Rice. As Dancy kind of had Sidney Brown and Jordan Guerrero there on the wing. Was trying to look for one of them. A good active hands from Rice. Forces the 5-second call and gives it right back to the Diplomats. It's Mike Rice. Off to Justin Koopa. Koopa to Ignis Slika. Slika to Rice. And now back out to Les Thomas. So Slika pulls up for 3 beyond the arc. It's no good. The rebound controlled by Robert Mangum. Tries to push the pace a little bit for the Lions. Mangum's going to go coast to coast. He's fouled on the way up. Nice take right there from Robert Mangum, the freshman, showing off a little bit of speed. He got the rebound, tried to push the pace, and draws the shooting foul. As I said, he was going on the way up. Of course, that's the 7th Franklin and Marshall foul. Would have put him in the bonus anyways, but instead Mangum will shoot 2. The foul was called on Brian Hines. That's his 2nd. Mangum, his first attempt is good. Nothing but net right there from the freshman. Mangum from Sicklerville, New Jersey. Also the same hometown as both Sidney Brown and Sean Miller. Sidney Brown and Robert Mangum played high school ball together at Winslow Township High School. Mangum makes both attempts. The inbound pass here. The full court press for a second by Albright. It's Franklin and Marshall trying to break the press as Koopa loses it in the backcourt. It's fought for by Jordan Guerrero. Koopa was able to get it back and call a timeout. So good defense there as Franklin and Marshall not set up to run the press break offense. And now Koopa was forced to call the 30-second timeout. 24-14, Franklin and Marshall leads with 7:01 to go in the first half. My name is Joe Fitzhenry, again with you here on the Albright Sports Network. Lions will be right back here inside the Bowman Center on Tuesday evening. They'll take on the Eastern University Eagles at 5 p.m. Of course, that Eastern game follows a women's game at 3 p.m. as the Albright women's team, led by head coach Janice Luck, currently undefeated at 5-0 on the year after an 86-47 win over Penn State Berks last night. As Albright will take on Immaculata here, in the Albright women battle Immaculata at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, followed by the Albright men's basketball team taking on Eastern at 5 p.m. Those will be the final games for both teams before the Thanksgiving break next week. There's now Brian Hines going to inbound from the left baseline over near his front team's bench. As Hines gives it in to Justin Koopa. Koopa guarded by Mangum. The screen set there by Hines. Now to Les Thomas for three. Three-pointers off the marks, tap back out by Grohl, and now controlled by Justin Koopa. Off in the corner there to Ignas Slika for three. No good. Albright won over the back call. Instead, it's controlled by Mike Rice. Off to Koopa once again. This time, Koopa turns it over. It was saved for a second by Isaiah Harris, who was kind of falling away. Just tried to flip it to one of his teammates. Was unable to find anybody. Again, Harris was kind of falling away right there. So Franklin and Marshall will retain possession. We'll have a third chance here, leading 24-14 with 6:34 to go in the first half. Mike Rice to Slika. Quickly back to Rice, who drives inside. Tried to force the pass to Hines. Controlled by Jordan Guerrero to Sidney Brown. To Robert Mangum there in the corner. Mangum guarded by Slika. To Isaiah Harris, who goes to work on Brian Hines. Harris a little up and under. The nice pass to Jordan Guerrero. It's blocked by Les Thomas. However, it goes right to Guerrero. To Sidney Brown, who pulls up for the jumper. But the offensive foul will be called here on Jordan Guerrero as Guerrero appeared to run over Justin Koopa right there. So now that's the first foul on Guerrero and the fifth on the Lions as a team. Brian Hines going to inbound, stolen by Sidney Brown. He goes up for the layup. It's blocked by Hines. Now a fight for it on the floor. Guerrero has it for a second, and we're going to have a foul called right here. What a hectic sequence right there for just a second as Hines kind of telegraphed the inbound pass. It went right to Sidney Brown, who went up for the layup, but Hines recovered quickly enough to block the shot. Jordan Guerrero got the rebound after the block. Guerrero was fouled on the way up there by Mike Rice. And now Guerrero is going to go to the line and shoot a 1-and-1. As the first attempt from the freshman guard is no good. The rebound by Matt Grohl, who just checked back into the game for Brian Hines. Solomon Mathis now back into the game for the Diplomats. Brings it across the timeline. Almost stolen away by Isaiah Harris, who's called for the foul there. Harris, the Albright bench, not particularly happy with that call. It was a tough call, folks. I think that Harris played good defense right there. Nearly got the steal. Said he called for his first foul, the sixth on Albright as a team. Now inbounding from next to the Albright bench is Justin Koopa. Koopa tries to find somewhere to go. Gives it to Solomon Mathis in the backcourt. Mathis loses it for a second. He quickly gets it back. Guarded by Sidney Brown. Stolen away now by Sidney Brown. As now Brown off to Majeka Dumi. The pass stolen by Les Thomas. Some sloppy play here from both teams in the last couple of minutes. Thomas now quickly back to Justin Koopa. Off to Ignas Slika. Slika inside. A nice pass there to Les Thomas. He can't get the floater to go. He gets his own rebound. He goes up. This time it looks like he was fouled by Isaiah Harris. So Harris is called for the foul. It'll be the second there on the junior from Edgewater, New Jersey. As now Corey Simmons reports to the scorer's table. And we'll check back in right here for the Lions in just a moment after the first of 2 free throws from Les Thomas, the junior from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. First free throw from Thomas is nothing but net. As the aforementioned Corey Simmons checks back in for Isaiah Harris. Franklin Marshall leads 25-14 with 5:26 to play in the first half. Thomas, the second of his free throws, is no good. The rebound corralled by Corey Simmons. Quickly gives it off to Majekadumi. Majekadumi to DeLacio Dancy. Majekadumi now inside to Simmons, who goes to work on Matt Grohl, and they're going to call Simmons for the offensive foul. Simmons tried the little spin move right there on the baseline, but Grohl was able to draw the charge. That's the 8th team foul on Albright. And now the full court press back on. Albright had success running it last time. This time, Franklin Marshall able to break it successfully. Justin Koopa brings it up in the front court. DeGrohl thinks about the 3 for a second. Now off to Solomon Mathis. Back to Justin Koopa. Over to Ignas Slika. Slika gets around Simmons for the layup for 2. It's good, and Franklin Marshall has a 27-14 lead. 4:45 to go here, first half, inside the Bowman Center. My name is Joe Fitzhenry. You're listening to all the action right here on the Albright Sports Network. Sidney Brown able to split a couple of defenders to Majekadumi. Off to Dancy in the corner, thinks about the 3. Now he drives inside. The floater is no good. Rebound controlled by Solomon Mathis. Mathis up in the front court to Les Thomas, who had a look at 3. Stripped away by Dancy. Fought for on the floor there by Jordan Guerrero. Quickly on the break, but they're going to say that Sidney Brown stepped on the out of bounds line there as he caught the outlet pass. So a turnover once again for Albright. And now Matt Grohl is going to inbound from the side. Turnovers have been a problem for Albright here in the first half, as that right there was the 15th turnover of the game. In fact, the 2 teams, however, have combined for 26 turnovers, with 4:25 to play in the first half. Les Thomas with it on the baseline for Franklin and Marshall. Back out to Koopa near the top of the key. Over to Solomon Mathis. Mathis to Slika, who pulls up for 3. It's no good. A long rebound controlled by Les Thomas. Slika with the layup. It's no good. Rebound by Corey Simmons. Quick over there to Sam Majekadumi. Majekadumi, the layup was no good. They're going to fight for the rebound. They're going to say it went off Majekadumi's fingertips right there as he fought for the rebound with Matt Grohl. The ball will go back to the Diplomats. 27-14, Franklin and Marshall. 3:40 to go in the first half. Solomon Mathis guarded by Robert Mangum. To Matt Grohl. As Les Thomas now loses it for a second. He regains control over to Justin Koopa, who once now again loses it. He guarded closely by Majekadumi. 12 seconds to shoot here for the Diplomats. 8 seconds out on the shot clock. Solomon Mathis over to Les Thomas. Back out to Justin Koopa, who has to force it up at the last minute. The long rebound is controlled by the Albright. As Thomas and Dancy kind of collided there near the baseline, and they'll say it bounced off of Les Thomas out of bounds, and that'll give it back to Albright. Deion Booker back in the game for the Lions will inbound. He'll inbound to DeLacio Dancy. Dancy brings it across the timeline, guarded closely by Solomon Mathis. As Dancy inside to Corey Simmons, tries to go to work on Matt Grohl. Now Simmons back out to Dancy. Now Dancy off in the corner, tried to force the cross-court pass right there. It was deflected by Justin Koopa out of bounds, so Albright will retain possession. Sam Majekadumi will now inbound from the sidelines right here. Over to Robert Mangum with 4 seconds to shoot. Mangum's got to go with a floater. It's no good. Simmons tried to go over the back right there of Solomon Mathis. Simmons is called for the foul. So Simmons is called for the foul. That'll be his second. It'll be the 9th team foul on Albright. Second on Simmons once again. And, of course, with Franklin and Marshall in the bonus, they'll go to the line here to shoot a 1-and-1. My name is Joe Fitzhenry. You're listening right here on the Albright Sports Network. Franklin and Marshall a 27-14 lead with 2:38 to play here in the first half. As Mathis, the front end of the 1-and-1's no good. The rebound by Dion Booker, who gives the quick outlet pass to Robert Mangum. Throws it over the head of DeLacio Dancy. It goes out of bounds. Albright maybe trying to go just a little too quick right there. And now it'll give it right back to the Diplomats. As Grohl inbounds to Solomon Mathis. Mathis to Matt Grohl. Over back out to Justin Koopa. Now we're going to have a foul right here, I believe. It's going to be Sam Majekadumi with a foul away from the ball. He's called for the push. And now that's going to send Matt Grohl to the line for 2 shots. Grohl, a junior from Ardmonk, New York. Played at Byram Hills High School, did Grohl. He'll shoot 2. First free throw from Grohl is good. Franklin and Marshall has a 28-14 lead. Ignis Slika and Justin Koopa was 7 apiece to lead the scoring for the Diplomats thus far. While the leading scorer for Albright thus far are Isaiah Harris and Corey Simmons, the 2 forces in the paint for the Lions, with 4 points apiece for head coach Rick Ferry's club. Grohl makes both free throws. He's got 4 for the Diplomats. And with 2:21 to play in the first half, Franklin and Marshall leads it 29-14. As Dion Booker inbounds it to DeLacio Dancy. Pressure picked up in the backcourt here by Justin Koopa. As now Dancy gives it off to Sean Miller. Miller is called for the lowering. That said he lowered the shoulder right there on Koopa, says the official. So the foul is called on Sean Miller. Again, Franklin Marshall in the double bonus, but an offensive foul, so no shooting free throws. Instead, Grohl inbound it from the baseline. He gives it into Solomon Mathis. Just over 2 minutes left here in the first half. As Grohl now over to Justin Koopa on the wing. Koopa to Grohl. Now we're going to have an offensive foul called right here. No, the foul is going to be on, there's going to be an offensive foul there on Jakob Panza. So a series of offensive fouls as we hit the late stages here of the first half. Dion Booker inbounds it to DeLacio Dancy. Dancy picked up in the backcourt by Solomon Mathis. Now we hit under 2 minutes to go in the opening stanza. Dancy off to Sean Miller. Miller back out to Robert Mangum at the top of the key. He's guarded by Panza. Now Mangum tries to draw to the hoop. He's fouled on the way there by Panza. Be the 10th team foul now on the Diplomats, so that'll put Albright in the double bonus, and they'll shoot 2. Now Mangum made a couple of free throws earlier. Shoot 2 again right here. First free throw from Mangum is good. Brings Albright within 14 at 29-15. Les Thomas checks back in here for Jakob Panza, who takes a seat. Panza picked up his second foul just a moment ago. Second free throw from Mangum is good. Lions cut to 13 at 29-16. So now the inbound pass. Grohl had to run the baseline a little bit right there. Full court press once again on for Albright. Nearly stolen in the backcourt. It's controlled by Mike Rice, who just gets it across ahead of the 10th second. Now off to Mathis, who pulls up in the lane for a jumper. He gets the friendly roll off the back end, and that'll give Franklin and Marshall a 31-16 advantage. Sean Miller now, guarded closely by Justin Koopa on the wing. Off to Robert Mangum. Mangum over there to Dion Booker. To DeLacio Dancy. Now Dancy tries to give it inside to Corey Simmons. They'll say it was tipped. Wow. So Dancy tried to give it inside to Corey Simmons right there, who had a great pick and roll look towards the basket. Pass was tipped on the way out of bounds by Mike Rice. So the ball will stay with Albright. Robert Mangum will inbound from underneath the basket into Sean Miller, who tries a spin move. He turns it over, loses control. It's corralled by Justin Koopa. Quickly ahead in the front court, Solomon Mathis. Over to Les Thomas. To Koopa on the wing. Koopa the look is blocked by Guerrero. And it'll go the way of Albright. Great defense there by Jordan Guerrero, who was able to block the layup there from Justin Koopa. 46 seconds to play in the first half. Blake Thompson checks back in for Sean Miller. Robert Mangum will inbound for the Lions. Mangum into Blake Thompson. Thompson picked up by Solomon Mathis, his opposite number 1. Thompson back once again to Mangum near the top of the key. Mangum now just inside the arc to Jordan Guerrero, who steps out. He pops the 3, no good. Tries to go after his own rebound. He knew it was off the mark. Just couldn't get there in time. Ball goes out of bounds. A team rebound of Franklin and Marshall. And they'll be able to hold for the last shot here. 27 seconds to play in the first half. Franklin and Marshall has a 31-16 lead over Albright. As Grohl inbounds it to Mike Rice. Rice guarded by Mangum. Rice now over to Solomon Mathis. Mathis back over to Thomas. To Rice, who will bring it back and reset as we hit 10 seconds to go here in the first half. Good defense from Mangum. Rice once again closely guarded. Now off to Thomas, who pulls up on the left baseline. The jumper is way off the mark. It's no good. Blake Thompson will gather the rebound. And that'll take us into the first half. That'll take us into halftime, I should say, with Franklin and Marshall leading Albright 31-16. Quickly take a look at the leading scorers for both teams. Again, 7 points apiece from Justin Koopa and Ignas Slika to lead the way. In fact, as 8 different players have scored for the Diplomats here in the first half. Well, Albright, their leading scorers thus far here in the early going. Corey Simmons has 4 points, as do Isaiah Harris and Robert Mangum. Mangum is a perfect 4 of 4 from the free throw line for Albright. And the shooting totals here in the first half. Franklin and Marshall 13 of 29 from the field at 44.8%. Albright is 5 of 19 from the field. And that's at 26.3% here in the first half. The Diplomats 2 of 9 from beyond the arc. Albright is 0 of 4. Again, the halftime score right here on the Albright Sports Network is the Franklin and Marshall Diplomats 31, the Albright Lions 16. We'll rejoin you here after the halftime break. You're listening to all the action right here on the Albright Sports Network. Back here inside the Bowman Center to start the second half. My name is Joe Fitzhenry, right here with you on the Albright Sports Network. Franklin and Marshall leading 31-16 as we start the second half. Sam Majekadumi inbounds to DeLacio Dancy. Original starting fives out there for both teams. As Dancy back to Majekadumi on the wing. He pulls up for three. It's no good. Long rebound, however, controlled by Sidney Brown on the opposite baseline. Over to Troy Smoot Jr. Inside to Isaiah Harris, who gets the up and under to go. This brings the Lions within 31-18 with a 19:30 to go in the second half. Mike Rice now over to Ignis Slika on the opposite end of the court for the Diplomats. Up to Matt Redhead. Redhead over to Les Thomas. Right inside, back to Redhead, who backs down Isaiah Harris. He gets the little pull-up jumper to go off the glass for two. And Franklin and Marshall quickly answers with a bucket of their own. As Dancy over to Sam Majekadumi. Majekadumi finds some space in the lane. He gets the easy layup. Now Sidney Brown here quickly picks up his defense in the backcourt by Mike Rice, who has to pick up his dribble. And Brown with a good defense right there caught Rice off guard. He forced the travel. And he'll give it right back to Albright. Now Troy Smoot Jr. is going to inbound to DeLacio Dancy. Is now Dancy. Try to give to Majekadumi for a second. He holds on to it instead. Dancy guarded by Mike Rice. Dancy inside. Back out to Troy Smoot Jr. who drives inside to Sidney Brown beyond the arc to Isaiah Harris, who gets the open jumper in the lane. However, it's off the mark, and the rebound controlled there by Justin Koopa. Koopa to Matt Redhead, who's guarded by Harris beyond the arc. Redhead off to Mike Rice. Rice now to Justin Koopa. Tries to drive baseline, gives it off to Redhead. To an open Mike Rice for three. Three-pointer is no good. Rebound corralled there by Majekadumi. Quickly off to Sidney Brown. Thinks about the three for a second. Now he tries to beat Koopa off the dribble. Instead, he pulls up for three. It's good. And the Lions are back within 10 at 33-23. It's the closest Albright's been since about 10 minutes to go in the first half. Matt Redhead now with it. To Koopa. Now to Redhead, who has a look from beyond the arc. It's off the mark. Rebound controlled by Sam Majekadumi. Majekadumi tries to settle it down. And now he loses control. Picked up by Les Thomas. Bounces around right to Sidney Brown, who gets the layup. He gets the friendly roll to go for two. Albright's back within 8 at 33-25. Inbounds pass stolen by Dancy. To Sidney Brown, who's guarded by Koopa. He goes up in the lane. Brown is fouled on the way up. And Albright making a run right here, folks. The Diplomats with a couple of sloppy turnovers. Sidney Brown hits the big three. He gets the layup to go for two. And now we're going to have a timeout right here called by the Diplomats. 17-18 to play in the second half. Franklin and Marshall leads it 33-25. Be right back here on the Albright Sports Network. Back here inside the Bowman Center on the Albright Sports Network, Sidney Brown at the line for two shots. The foul was called on Ignis Slika, his first of the half on Franklin and Marshall. First free throw from Brown is good. Albright back within 7 at 33-26. 17-18 to play in the second half. My name is Joe Fitzhenry. Brown readying for the second of his 2 attempts. Second free throw is no good. He front rims it. Rebound control there by Ignas Slika, who turns it over right to Troy Smoot Jr. The layup is no good, however, and the rebound controlled by Matt Redhead. Solomon Mathis now with it in the backcourt. Mathis brings it across the timeline. Mathis trying to find somewhere to go with it. He finds Redhead at the top of the key. Off to Mike Rice. The illegal screen called here on Matt Redhead. That's going to be the 3rd foul of the game on Redhead. So give it right back to Albright. Now Redhead's going to take a quick seat, and Matt Grohl will check in for Franklin and Marshall. Troy Smoot Jr. getting inbound from the side baseline right here. Smoot Jr. into Dancy, who's picked up defensively by Mike Rice in the backcourt. As Dancy now off to Troy Smoot Jr. Smoot Jr., the pull-up jumper, he front rimmed that one. Long rebound out to Les Thomas, who gives it to Mike Rice. Rice now over to Solomon Mathis, to Ignas Slika, over to Matt Grohl. A little baby hook shot, no good. Rebound by Majekadumi. Albright down by 7, 16:30 to play. Majekadumi beats Thomas off the dribble. The no-look pass to Isaiah Harris, who gets the layup to go for 2. And Albright is within 5 at 33-28. As now Mike Rice to Matt Grohl at the top of the key. Grohl guarded by Isaiah Harris. Over to Solomon Mathis. To Rice there on the baseline. Rice called for the travel. Yet another Franklin and Marshall turnover here in the second half. And he'll give it back to the Lions once again. As now Justin Koopa is going to check back into the game. Koopa was one of the leading scorers for Franklin and Marshall at halftime with 7 points. Albright's outscored F&M 12-2 thus far here in the second half. Stalacio Dancy over to Troy Smoot Jr. Smoot Jr. gives it inside. It's turned over. He lost control right there. It went right to Matt Grohl, who quickly hands it off to Solomon Mathis, who's guarded in the backcourt by Sidney Brown. Off to Matt Grohl. Now over to Les Thomas on the wing. Tried to find Slika inside. No space right there. Now to Koopa. Back out to Mathis with 12 to shoot. To Les Thomas. The Mathis beyond the arc. Koopa near the top of the key. Slika drives inside. The off-balance floater is good. Nice look right there from Slika. Was able to get the layup to go. Majekadumi quickly the other way on the fast break. He gets the layup to go. And it's 35-30 with 15-10 to go here in regulation. As now Solomon Mathis gives it to Matt Grohl. Grohl to Les Thomas. Thomas to Justin Koopa, who gets the 3 from the top of the key to go for 3. Franklin and Marshall right back in front by 8 at 38-30. Majekadumi quickly across here. The outlet pass from Delacio Dancy. Majekadumi beats Thomas off the dribble. The 3-pointer is off the mark from the wing. Rebound controlled by Solomon Mathis. As now Mathis lost it for a second. Grohl was kind of tied up with Sidney Brown, so Mathis was able to regain control of the ball. Now it's to Les Thomas. Over to Slika in the corner. He drives baseline. The up and under layup is good. Nice take right there to the hoop by Ignas Slika. That'll give Franklin and Marshall once again a double-digit lead at 40-30. Outlet pass from Sidney Brown to Troy Smoot Jr. was deflected by Justin Koopa. Off his hands, out of bounds. So Albright will retain possession. Slika now has 11 on the night. Well, Justin Koopa also in double figures with 10 for the Diplomats. Sam Majekadumi inbounds to Delacio Dancy. Dancy back out to Majekadumi, is guarded by Les Thomas beyond the arc. Majekadumi off the dribble. Call on the floor right here, I believe. Trying to figure out what that foul is. Now the official's going to go over and have a couple of words with Rick Ferry. It's going to be Albright basketball here from the sideline. So now they're saying initially it was announced that a foul on Sam Majekadumi. Now there's no foul call. The ref's still talking about it right here. I'll try to get some clarification here in just a minute. It looks like maybe it's a foul here on Ignas Slika. I believe that's what they call it. That's what they're showing. It's going to be Albright basketball. Not sure what that was about. It's going to be Albright basketball right here. Dancy with it in the backcourt. Regains control of the ball. He's guarded closely by Solomon Mathis. Dancy, good defense there by Mathis. Tries to drive around him. He gets the floater off the glass to go for two. Albright back within 8 at 40-32. Solomon Mathis now to Matt Grohl. Over to Les Thomas. Thomas for three. It's no good. Long rebound control there by Sidney Brown. As Brown, he'll pull up for the quick three in transition. It's off the mark. Rebound by Solomon Mathis. Mathis, the turnaround jumper is good from the free throw line near the elbow, and that'll give Franklin Marshall a double-digit lead once again at 42-32. Majekadumi inbounds it to Dancy. Quickly gives it right back to Majekadumi, the junior from Staten Island, New York. Majekadumi tries to beat Thomas off the dribble. Layup is no good in traffic right there. Tough look there from Majekadumi. Rebound by Justin Koopa. Koopa, the layup in transition. It's good, and he draws the foul. That's a tough break right there. Majekadumi had one rim out on the other end. And then quickly in transition, Justin Koopa gets the layup to go. Koopa now leads all scorers with 12 on the night. And that foul was called on Sidney Brown as Koopa will go to the line for the first time tonight, trying to complete the three-point play. Sidney Brown, Isaiah Harris with 8 points apiece to lead the way for Albright. The free throw from Koopa is good, so he completes the three-point play. 12:51 to play. Franklin and Marshall leads Albright 45-32. Robert Mangum guarded in the backcourt there by Mike Rice. Mangum off to Majekadumi. Closely guarded on the baseline by Les Thomas. Trying to find Sidney Brown. Brown able to free up space there from his defender, Justin Koopa. As now Brown drives to the hoop. He gets it, the layup to go for two. Nice response there from the Lions. Sidney Brown, first Albright player in double digits tonight. He's got 10. As Matt Grohl off to Les Thomas, to Mike Rice beyond the arc. Over to Justin Koopa there on the winger. He's guarded by Robert Mangum. Koopa gets the layup to go right there. Mangum played great defense. He really kind of held off Koopa, but Koopa able to get the tough layup to go. Mangum guarded by Mike Rice on the wing. Tried to force the pass inside to Corey Simmons. It's stolen by Matt Grohl. And now Grohl gives it off to Mike Rice. Rice quickly inside to Slika, guarded by Dion Booker. And now Slika kind of forced the pass right there to Justin Koopa. They'll say the foul will be called right here. That foul is going to be on Sam Majekadumi. Now we're going to have a timeout right here. That's the fourth foul on Sam Majekadumi. 11:41 to play here in the second half. We'll take a quick timeout as Albright takes a team full timeout. Franklin Marshall leads it 47-34. Again, 11:47 to play here right on the Albright Sports Network. back here on the Albright Sports Network. Mike Rice inbounds to Jakob Panza. Panza's pass back out to Les Thomas. Nearly goes out of bounds. Thomas was able to save it. Now over to Rice back near the top of the key. Back out once again to Justin Koopa, who drives baseline. Dishes it off to Matt Grohl, who misses the layup for two. Corey Simmons gets the rebound. He hands it off to Robert Mangum. Albright trying to cut into the lead once again. They had it within 5 at one point here in the early stages of the second half. Now back up to 13 at 47-34. Pull-up jumper from Jekadumi. He's off the mark. However, Corey Simmons able to fight for the rebound. Deion Booker goes up for two. Nice look there from Simmons to Booker, and Albright back within 11 at 47-36. 11 minutes to play here. Matt Grohl inside to Justin Koopa. Thought about giving inside to Panza for a second, guarded closely by Deion Booker. Now Koopa with 12 seconds to shoot here for the Diplomats. To Les Thomas. Back out to Mike Rice. Rice gets the layup. He beats Sidney Brown off the dribble right there. Gives Franklin and Marshall a 13-point lead once again at 49-36. As Sidney Brown now guarded by by Justin Koopa in the backcourt. Inside to Corey Simmons. Simmons trying to back down Matt Grohl. Simmons will go up with it. The layup is good. He gets it off the glass for two, and he's going to get to the go-to line, try to complete the three-point play. Nice play there from Corey Simmons, who had the tough layup in traffic, but was able to get it to go. As now Matt Grohl picks up his second foul. He'll go to the bench as Matt Redhead and also Ignas Slika will check in for Franklin and Marshall, while Troy Smoot Jr. checks in for Sidney Brown for Albright. Corey Simmons' free throw is good. Lions back within 10 at 49-39. Just over 10 minutes to play here in the second half. As Mike Rice over to Matt Redhead to Les Thomas. Tries to force it inside. It's tipped away by Deion Booker. Goes right to Corey Simmons. Hands it off to Troy Smoot Jr. And now Sam Majekadumi brings it across the timeline for Albright. Majekadumi guarded closely. Loses it for a second. Saved by Troy Smoot just near that half-court line right there. Nice save by Smoot Jr. Robert Mangum. The step-back jumper. It's good. What a pretty step-back right there from Robert Mangum. And Albright is back within single digits at 49-41 with 9:35 to play here in the Bowman Center. Albright crowd starting to get into it right now, trying to will their Lions to a comeback. Mike Rice drives in traffic. His layup is off the mark. However, he gets his own rebound off the foot of Deion Booker. It'll go into the top row of the bleachers right there. So Franklin and Marshall will retain possession. Jordan Guerrero checks back in to give Sam Majekadumi a quick breather for the Lions. Robert Mangum, again, a real nice step back right there just a moment ago. He has 6 on the night. Off the inbounds pass, Matt Redhead, the jumper in the lane. It's no good. Rebound controlled by Jordan Guerrero. Guerrero's been tough on the boards and defensively tonight for Albright. As Mangum now over to Smoot Jr. Inside to Corey Simmons. Out to Guerrero for 3. It's no good. Long rebound right to Ignas Slika. Slika now hands it back to Justin Koopa. Koopa tries to beat Simmons off the dribble. Gives it out to an open Les Thomas for 3. It's no good. Slika went up for the rebound, but it was Deion Booker controlled it for Albright. Now Jordan Guerrero tries to settle things a little bit. Hands it off to his fellow freshman, Robert Mangum. Mangum guarded by Mike Rice. He gets the layup off the glass. It's no good. Rebound by Guerrero for a second. He lost it, however. They'll say there's going to be a foul here. It'll be on Albright, so it'll go to Franklin and Marshall. Jordan Guerrero was called for the foul right there. It's a second foul on Guerrero and the third of the half on Albright. 8:30 to play here on the Albright Sports Network. Franklin and Marshall leads Albright 49-41. Matt Redhead inbounds to Solomon Mathis. Mathis over to Mike Rice. Over here to Ignas Slika. It's now Slika inside. Redhead lost control. It went off his foot out of bounds. It'll be Albright basketball. Deion Booker going to inbound it from underneath his basket right here. for head coach Rick Ferry's club. Booker into Robert Mangum, who takes his time bringing it up the court right here. He's picked up at the half-court line by Mike Rice. As Mangum to Booker, back out near the wing, on the wing, beyond the three-point line. Now back over to Mangum, inside to Corey Simmons, who stepped on the out-of-bounds line. He was trying to find some space to get a pass to Troy Smoot Jr. in the corner, who was open for three, but Simmons stepped on the out-of-bounds line, and he'll give it right back to Franklin and Marshall. It's now Matt Redhead, quickly inbounds it to Solomon Mathis. Mathis now, inside to Redhead. Redhead to Ignas Slika. To Redhead, who has the open look for three. It's no good. Rebound, Rosenford by Troy Smoot Jr. Smoot Jr. tries to push the pace a little bit. He's picked up defensively by Solomon Mathis. He loses control off his foot right to Mike Rice. And now Jordan Guerrero tried to steal it right back, but Guerrero commits the reach-in foul right there. It'll be the third foul on Guerrero. The fourth on Albright has a team. And Isaiah Harris is going to check back into the game here for Albright, as Corey Simmons will head to the bench. Justin Koopa going to inbound from the side right here. As Koopa back out to Solomon Mathis, who brings it across the half-court line to Matt Redhead. Right back to Koopa. Koopa guarded closely by Troy Smoot Jr. Koopa trying to find some space. He finds Mathis, who has a look for three. It is good. That feels like a big three right there. Been no scoring for a couple of minutes. And then Franklin and Marshall find Solomon Mathis for three, and they lead at 52-41. Robert Mangum brings it inside right here. Mangum over to Jordan Guerrero on the baseline. There's going to be a blocking foul called right here. The blocking foul is going to be on Justin Koopa, as Guerrero tried to drive into the lane right there, but he does draw the blocking foul. So now inbounding from underneath his basket is number 23, Robert Mangum. Now Sam Majekadumi, of course, with 4 fouls. Majekadumi, the leading scorer for the Lions, entering play tonight at 22 points a game. He's going to check back in right here with 6:54 to go. Again, Majekadumi with 4 fouls, but he'll check back in for the stretch run as Dion Booker will take a seat. Now Robert Mangum, once again, set to inbound right here. Albright trails by 11, 52-41, 6:54 to play. Majekadumi tries to drive into traffic. Layup was blocked there. Now the rebound by Troy Smoot Jr., who finds Jordan Guerrero. He gets the kiss off the glass. Albright back within single digits once again, 52-43 with 6:35 to go. Now Justin Koopa, we're going to have a foul away from the ball right here. Foul was committed there by Troy Smoot Jr. That'll be the 5th team foul on Albright. Again, it was away from the ball. And only the 5th team foul on the Lions, so no shooting fouls just yet. As now Justin Koopa will inbound to Matt Redhead. Redhead over to Les Thomas. Thomas to Justin Koopa. He goes up in the lane. He's fouled on the way up. He was about in between about 3 defenders there. So Koopa was able to draw the foul. I believe that foul was called on Isaiah Harris. It was the 3rd foul on Isaiah Harris. And now Koopa will go to the line to shoot 2. Franklin and Marshall leads Albright 52-43 with 6:26 to play here in the second half. As the free throw is good by Justin Koopa. Franklin and Marshall back to a 10-point lead at 53-43. Is now Koopa, the second of his 2 free throws is good. Diplomats lead by 11, 6:26 to play. Koopa has 17 points to lead all scorers on the night. He entered play as the leading scorer for the Diplomats with 17.5 per game, so he's right about his scoring average. Robert Mangum with it beyond the arc for Albright. Mangum will pull up for 3. It's no good. It rims in and out. Guerrero had the rebound for a second. He fights for it. Did he control it? Yes, he did. Great battle there for the rebound by the freshman Jordan Guerrero. as Ignis Slika and Solomon Mathis were down there trying to control it for the Diplomats. And they'll get Justin Koopa there on the foul. That's the third foul on Koopa, something that bears watching with 6:06 to play. And Franklin and Marshall holding an 11-point lead at 54-43. Now we're going to take just a second here, wipe some sweat away from dampness from the court. Robert Mangum is going to inbound here for Albright. Mangum to Troy Smoot Jr. The pull-up jumper is no good. Rebound by Isaiah Harris, who goes back up. Rebound blocked by Harris' shot blocked by Matt Redhead, but it went out of bounds, and it'll stay with the Lions. Big offensive rebound right there. Jordan Guerrero has been really impressive tonight as a freshman, fighting for every rebound he can get his hands on, and also has some nice moments defensively as well for the freshman from Baltimore, Maryland. Sam Majekadumi with it now. 18 seconds to shoot. Majekadumi guarded closely there by Les Thomas. Thomas commits the reach-in foul. With a 6-team foul on Franklin and Marshall. And DeLacio Dancy will check right in. We'll check back in right here for Robert Mangum as Mangum takes a seat. Majekadumi will inbound from the sideline next to the Albright bench into Troy Smoot Jr. Smoot Jr. guarded closely by Koopa. Now over to Majekadumi. He lost it for seconds, controlled by Isaiah Harris. Now to Majekadumi with 10 seconds to shoot. Majekadumi trying to find some space. Now Isaiah Harris loses it inside, stolen away by Mike Rice, who gives it off to Matt Redhead. Now back to Solomon Mathis, who's going to settle things right here and bring it across the timeline for the Diplomats. As Mathis in right here to Ignis Slika. Slika stolen away by Jordan Guerrero, and it finds the hands of Isaiah Harris. We're now trying to find a ball handler. Majekadumi, the pass to Jordan Guerrero. He gets the layup to go for two. Nice look right there from Majekadumi. Guerrero hits the layup, and Albright's back within 9 at 54-45 with 5 minutes to play. And Solomon Mathis now. Give it out to Justin Koopa. Over to Matt Redhead. Inside right here to Ignis Slika. Slika gets the tough floater to go for two. 56-45 Franklin and Marshall. 4:47 to play here. And Franklin and Marshall is going to take a timeout after the made basket. And we'll take a quick break on the Albright Sports Network. Again, the Diplomats lead the Albright Lions 56-45 with 4:47 to play. We'll be right back. Back here on the Albright Sports Network, Franklin and Marshall leads Albright 56-45, 4:47 to play. My name is Joe Fitzhenry. Thanks for tuning in tonight inside the Bowman Center non-conference men's basketball action. It's Troy Smoot Jr. inbound to DeLacio Dancy, quickly picked up defensively by Justin Koopa. As Dancy guarded by Koopa on the wing. Dancy to Isaiah Harris. As Isaiah Harris now gives it off to Majekadumi, who's guarded closely by Les Thomas. Majekadumi trying to find some space right here. Doesn't have a lot of places to go. He loses it in transition, in traffic, I should say, and it's controlled by Justin Koopa, who brings it the other way for the Diplomats. Solomon Mathis now with it, up to Matt Grohl to Koopa, who rolls to the hoop. It's blocked by Guerrero and Troy Smoot Jr., and Smoot Jr. brings it back up the court for the Lions. Smoot Jr. to an open look for Guerrero, who misses the open layup right there, but is controlled by DeLacio Dancy. So the offensive rebound was tipped out by Isaiah Harris. Now Smoot Jr. to the hoop for two. It's good, and the foul. Nice job by Albright to maintain their composure right there after they had lost a couple chances at an offensive rebound. Guerrero had an easy look, but Smoot Jr. able to get the layup to go off the glass, and he was fouled as he was falling away from the basket. Smoot Jr. is going to go to the line. Les Thomas picks up the foul right there. It's his third for the Diplomats and the 7th on Franklin and Marshall as a team. Again, 56-47, Franklin and Marshall leads with 3:58 to play here in the second half. Smoot Jr. at the line trying to cut it to an 8-point game. The free throw is good, and the Lions are back within 8 at 56-48. Is now Mike Rice. Brings it across the timeline right here. Is now Justin Koopa with it. Ignis Slika will give it off to Mike Rice, who's guarded by Troy Smoot Jr. 15 seconds to shoot. Back to Solomon Mathis. Over to Ignis Slika. Nearly lost his dribble there for a second. Tried to force the pass to Koopa. He thought better of it. Now he loses it. Loose ball is picked up by Matt Grohl, who's able to call the timeout right there. That was a nice job from Matt Grohl, along with Sidney Brown, to get on the floor for their respective teams right there. Grohl was able to get the timeout off the loose ball. Now it looks like there was some confusion as to whether it's a 30-second or full timeout. It's going to be a full timeout right here. We'll take one last quick break with 3:29 to play. Franklin and Marshall leads Albright 56-48 right here on the Albright Sports Network. Things are coming down to the wire here inside the Bowman Center. My name is Joe Fitzhenry with you tonight on the Albright Sports Network. Franklin and Marshall leads 56-48, 3:29 to play. Mike Rice inbounds for the Diplomats. Justin Koopa is fouled shooting the three-pointer right there. That's a tough call, folks. Sidney Brown, I thought, had good defense. The shot clock was expiring, and Justin Koopa was fouled shooting the three. That's a tough call. Sidney Brown, again, I thought went straight up there, but they say that he got Koopa on the arm. And that's the type of call that can really change the games. You hear some boos from the crowd inside the Bowman Center as Koopa will shoot 3 free throws. The 3 was way off the mark as the shot clock was expiring. The Albright bench not happy with the call. Lions fans not happy with the call, as Justin Koopa is at the line shooting 3 free throws. That's a tough one, folks. The foul was on Sidney Brown, his second, and the team's 7th. First free throw from Koopa is off the mark. It rolls out. They'll have 2 more attempts right here. Koopa readies for his second attempt. That one is good. It rolls in right there. He got the friendly roll off the rim. As now Les Thomas checks back into the game for Franklin and Marshall. Solomon Mathis will take a seat. Koopa will have 1 more free throw. Franklin Marshall leads by 9 with 3:26 to play. The third of the free throws is good. Back to a 10-point game at 58-48. Sam Majekadumi now, given the inbounds pass by Troy Smoot Jr. Smoot Jr. now back to Majekadumi. Miscommunication between the two juniors right there. The pass goes out of bounds, and it'll go back to the Diplomats. Matt Grohl will inbound from the side for Franklin and Marshall. As Grohl inbounds it to Mike Rice. Rice to Les Thomas. Over now to Justin Koopa. Koopa to Ignas Slika. Back over to Mike Rice. Rice now to Justin Koopa with 12 seconds to shoot. Koopa hands it off to Slika, who pulls up just inside the arc. No good. Rebound by Isaiah Harris. And now Slika's down in the backcourt. Albright's going to have a fast break right here. DeLacio Dancy, the open three, it's no good. And the rebound is controlled now by Mike Rice. Looks like Slika maybe got caught in the face right there, just near his own free throw line. He was down on that possession as he was not able to get up, and so he's still down in the backcourt right here. We're going to have a stoppage in play. Rick Parch, the athletic trainer for Albright, as well as head coach Nick Niche of Franklin and Marshall, will go out to check on Slika and make sure he's okay. So Albright had a 5-on-4 possession, and DeLacio Dancy had an open look at three, but he was unable to get it to go. And it remains a 10-point game at 58-48 in favor of the Diplomats with 2:39 to play. Now Slika is maybe kind of holding something over his eye right there. He hits a nice hand from the crowd as he'll walk off under his own power. Make sure he's good to go. Jordan Guerrero will check back in the game for the Lions. We'll have just a second right here. Now Matt Redhead, it appears, will check back in for Ignas Slika. Now we're going to have just a brief delay right here. Give you a check here on the leading scorers for both teams. Albright's made a close game here in the second half, and a lot of that has been due to the work of Sidney Brown, who's made 4 field goals here all in the second half. He's got 10 points. Isaiah Harris has 8. Corey Simmons has 7, and 6 points from Robert Mangum. While Justin Koopa is 6 of 11 from the floor and 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. He leads all scorers with 19 points, while Ignas Slika has 13 points, also on 6 of 11 shooting for the Diplomats. And Albright's made a game of it. They trailed 31-16 at halftime, opened the second half on a 12-2 run. It cut the lead to 5 at 33-28 with about 15 minutes to go. But they were unable to get any closer than 5. The Diplomats have kind of maintained them at an arm's length. Again, now a 10-point game at 58-48 with 2:39 to play. As well, it maybe appears wiping up whatever, maybe some blood right there from Slika as the two coaches gather with their respective teams. And for Albright, obviously going to need to knock down some shots here and string together a couple stops if you're going to make a run here down the stretch. Again, they were able to get it to 5. Albright came into play at 2-1 on the year. They will be back in action right here at the Bowman Center on Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. when they battle the Eastern University Eagles. That'll be the second half of an Albright basketball doubleheader. It's the Albright women's team off to a 5-0 start on the year. Is in action tomorrow at the City College of New York up in Manhattan. And then the Albright women's team returns here to the Bowman Center on Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. when they will play Immaculata. So now the two teams return to the court. It'll be Franklin and Marshall ball coming out of the injury delay right there. And Matt Grohl will inbound it for the Diplomats. Grohl will be guarded closely by Jordan Guerrero. As Grohl will inbound it right back to him. Now he nearly turns it over. He does, and he lost it for a second, but they're going to say there's a foul called on Troy Smoot Jr., who would have had an easy layup right there. But instead, a foul is called right there, and that'll send Franklin and Marshall to the line for the 1-and-1, as that's the 4th on Troy Smoot Jr. and the 8th team foul on Albright. As Grohl was kind of trying to give it off to Justin Koopa, who tried to give it back to Grohl. Nearly stolen by Smoot Jr., but they say he just got a piece of Grohl as he recovered the ball. As Grohl makes the front end of the 1-1, and it's back to an 11-point game at 59-48 with 2:36 to play. As Grohl goes for the second free throw, it is good, and the Diplomats lead at 60-48, 2:36 to play. Troy Smoot Jr. now inbounds it to Majekadumi. Majekadumi guarded closely by Les Thomas. He's fouled on his way to the hoop. We'll say it was before the shot attempt, however. So it'll be a 1-1 here. The Lions also in the bonus. That'll be the 18th foul on Franklin and Marshall. Again, Majekadumi entered play as the leading scorer for the Lions on the year at 22 points a game. He's got 4 tonight, as the Diplomats have done a nice job of Majekadumi defensively. Majekadumi, again, shooting the front end of a 1-1. The free throw is no good. He front rimmed it. However, it was out of bounds, and it'll stay with Albright. It looked like Grohl, Justin Koopa, and Matt Redhead all kind of went up for the rebound right there. None of the three could get a handle on it, so it'll stay with the Lions. 2:26 to play. Diplomats lead at 60-48. Sidney Brown will inbound it from underneath his own basket right here. Brown off to Majekadumi, who goes up in traffic. He's fouled on the way up. This time he'll shoot too. He's fouled on the way up right there. Foul appeared to be on Justin Koopa. We'll confirm that here in just a second. Excuse me, it was on number 34, Matt Grohl. That's the third on Grohl, the 9th on Franklin and Marshall. So now Majekadumi shooting 2 right here. 2:24 to play, 60-48. The Diplomats lead Albright. Majekadumi's first free throw is no good. Try to regather his composure right here. He'll head back to the line with one more chance at it. Albright trying to make a late run. They trail by 12 at 60-48 with 2:24 to go. Majekadumi gets ready for the second of his 2 free throw attempts. He goes up, the shot is on the way, and the free throw is good. 5 points now on the night for the junior from Staten Island, New York. Albright back within 11, 60-49. Full court press on right here. They're able to break it. Koopa with a 2-on-1. He'll take it himself. The layup is no good. But they're going to say an over-the-back foul called here, I believe, on the freshman Jordan Guerrero. So Koopa had a 2-on-1 with Les Thomas, but Koopa opted to take it himself. The layup was off the mark, and Guerrero and Isaiah Harris hustled back on defense for the Lions. But Guerrero committed the foul right there on number 11, Les Thomas. So now Thomas will go to the line to shoot a 1-1. 60-49 now in favor of Franklin and Marshall. 2:16 to play here on the Albright Sports Network. Free throw from Les Thomas is good. Back to a 12-point game. Now the back end of the 1-1, initial 1-1 right here for Les Thomas. Thomas front rims the second one. Rebound controlled by Majekadumi. Just over 2 minutes to play here. Majekadumi trying to take it quickly. He's got a good defense there by Thomas. Majekadumi will go up for the 3. It's off the mark. It's no good. I believe it went off the hands of a Franklin and Marshall player right there off the top, up near the shot clock. So it'll stay with Albright. They'll get an extra possession right here. They need all of those they can get down the stretch. Trailing by 12 with 2:02 to go. Sidney Brown to Troy Smoot Jr. Guarded in the corner by Mike Rice. Smoot Jr., the up and under, it's no good. He gets his own rebound. The second chance look goes. And that'll get Albright back within 10. It's 61-51 now. 1:53 to play. Nice battle there from Troy Smoot Jr. to get his own rebound. He gets the second chance points to go. Smoot Jr. now with 5 on the night. Again, 1:53 to play. 61-51 Franklin and Marshall leads. We'll take a quick break on the Albright Sports Network. Back here inside the Bowman Center, my name's Joe Fitzhenry with you tonight on the Albright Sports Network. Matt Grohl will inbound for the Diplomats. Trying to find an open man as he runs the baseline. He gets it into Justin Koopa, who's double-teaming the backcourt to Matt Redhead. Now over to Grohl. Pass on sail over his head for a second. Was able to get a hand on it to Koopa, who's guarded behind the half-court line. And I was going to say that Koopa was able to get a timeout right there. Now that's going to be a 10-second call instead. Initially, one of the referees had said that Koopa was able to get the timeout, but then after a look at the shot clock, there was 20 seconds remaining. That's a 10-second violation, backcourt violation. Not backcourt violation, 10-second violation, I should say. And Albright will get the ball back, trailing by 10, 61-51 with 1:42 to go. Troy Smoot Jr. will inbound and let it roll to Sam Majekadumi, who brings it across, guarded by Les Thomas. Majekadumi the hoop, the look to Jordan Guerrero, who gets the layup to go for two. And Albright now back within 8 with 1:30 to play. Koopa now with Matt Redhead as Franklin Marshall breaks the press to Mike Rice in the front court. He's double-teamed. This time Mike Rice does get the timeout call. Good defense there once again from Albright as they were able to pick up the double team right in front of the scorer's table here at the Bowman Center. So 61-53 Franklin and Marshall with 1:27 to play. Now, again, we'll take one last time out here on the Albright Sports Network. Diplomats lead it by 8 with 1:27 to go. Back here on the Albright Sports Network, 1:27 to play. Franklin Marshall leads it 61-53. Justin Koopa inbounds to Matt Grohl, who gives it right back to Koopa. Trying to use some of the clock here. 1:20 to play, 16 seconds to shoot for Franklin and Marshall. Koopa hands it off to Mike Rice, who's guarded very closely there by Sidney Brown. Good defense there from Brown. As now Mike Rice with 5 seconds to shoot. Back out to Les Thomas to Koopa, who has to force up the three. It's no good. Long rebound bounces out to Troy Smoot Jr. Out to Majekadumi in transition. Majekadumi picked up defensively by Les Thomas. The little pull-up floater goes for Majekadumi. It's a 6-point game at 61-55 with 55 seconds to play right here. A full timeout, so we'll take a quick break. 55 seconds to play. Franklin and Marshall leads it by 6 at 61-55. Matt Grohl will inbound for Franklin and Marshall. 55 seconds play. Diplomats lead it by 6. Full court press on here. Pass from Mike Rice was tipped out of bounds by Sidney Brown. So the ball will stay with the Diplomats. Albright's certainly made things interesting here in the late stages of this contest. Trailed by 6 with 52 seconds to go. It's now Solomon Mathis within the backcourt. Over to Rice. Back over to Mathis. 3 seconds to get it across. He gets it across in time to Justin Koopa. As now Koopa with it, trying to find somewhere to go. Good defense by Majeka Dumi. Koopa is forced to call the timeout with 39 seconds to play. And Franklin and Marshall leads it 61-55. Now we're going to take a quick time. I'm trying to figure out what kind of timeout it's. We're going to get a full timeout right here for the Diplomats. At 61-55, they lead. 39.2 seconds to play. And again, Albright has done a nice job of making things. They've been able to make some shots down the stretch. They played really good defense here to stay in the game. Again, the Lions trailed by 15 at halftime at 31-16, but they've put up 39 points here in the second half, and they've had a nice little run here as of late. They trailed by double digits. Again, they cut it to 5 at one point with about 15 minutes or so to play. They cut it to 33-28, but for the most part, they have trailed by double digits for the majority of this contest, especially in this second half as well. But they've been able to cut the lead to 6 at 61-55 with 39.2 seconds to play. Two teams talking strategy over with their respective teams. It'll be Franklin and Marshall ball coming out of the timeout with 14 seconds showing on the shot clock. 39.2 seconds on the game clock here. As now Albright returns to the court, and that'll be the first horn. Now Franklin and Marshall comes out of the timeout for the second horn right here. As Justin Koopa will inbound from the side right next to his team's bench. Koopa trying to find somebody here. Matt Grohl guarded by a couple of people. He gets it into Matt Redhead, who he has to use his pivot foot. Nearly lost his dribble right there. And now the quick foul committed by Jordan Guerrero. That's what you want to do if you're Albright. Try to extend this game as much as possible. Create as many possessions as you can. Albright is now in the double bonus. That's it for Jordan Guerrero as he picks up his 5th foul right here. And we'll see who checks into the game for Albright. As DeLacio Dancy, sitting on the bench, he'll check back into the game here for the Lions. So Matt Redhead at the line for 2 shots right here. 61-55 game in favor of Franklin and Marshall with 35.9 seconds to play. First free throw from Redhead is off the front rim. It's no good. Albright still with a chance right here, trailing by 6 with 35.9 to play. Redhead's second free throw is good. So now a 7-point game at 62-55. Troy Smoot Jr. inbounds it to Sam Majeka-Dumi as we hit 30 seconds to play right here. Majeka-Dumi turns it over. He lost control. He dribbled it off his foot. He goes right to Justin Koopa. Koopa trying to dribble past Sidney Brown. He'll dribble around a bit. Trying to foul here is Albright. Koopa lost it for a second. It's controlled by Matt Grohl. He'll give it off to Koopa. To Matt Redhead. 15 seconds to play. Now to Justin Koopa. And they'll have a foul here away from the ball. DeLacio Dancy picks up the foul right here. It's his first of the game. Again, Albright in the double bonus. So Matt Redhead right back to the line to shoot 2 free throws with 14 seconds to play. The Diplomats lead Albright 62-55. First free throw from Redhead is good. Back to an 8-point game. Again, 14 seconds to play. Redhead now with 6 points on the night. He's made 2 of 3 from the line. Make that 2 of 4 as he front rims the second free throw. Rebound by Troy Smoot Jr. as we hit 10 seconds to play. Smoot Jr. is going to get the pull-up jumper in the lane. It's no good. The rebound control there by Matt Grohl. He'll dribble out the clock right here, and that will do it. Again, the final score is Franklin and Marshall 63 and Albright 55. And we'll take a quick look here at the leading scorers for both teams. Leading the way for Albright was Sidney Brown. He had 10 points on the night. Isaiah Harris had 8, 7 apiece from Sam Majekadumi and Corey Simmons, while Jordan Guerrero and Robert Mangum had 6 for the Lions. Franklin and Marshall was led by Justin Koopa, had a big night with 19 points, while Ignis Slika had 13, and also with 8 points for the Diplomats was Matt Grohl. And again, Albright did make things interesting in the second half, and they were able to make it a really good game, really interesting game down the stretch. But just came up just a little bit short right here. The closest they were able to get was 5. That was at a 33-28 with 5 minutes to play. And again, the final score here tonight was Franklin and Marshall 63, Albright 55. Franklin and Marshall improves to 2-1 on the season, while Albright drops to 2-2 on the year. And Albright's right back here at the Bowman Center on Tuesday, November 26th. They'll host Eastern right here at 5 p.m. And again, that's the second half of an Albright basketball doubleheader. The Albright women's team will be in action at 3 p.m. on Tuesday versus the Immaculata Mighty Macs out of the Atlantic East Conference. And thank you for tuning in tonight, everybody. My name is Joe Fitzhenry, and your final score was the Franklin and Marshall Diplomats 63, the Albright Lions 55. Have a great rest of your night and rest of your weekend. And again, thanks for tuning in on the Albright Sports Network and listening for Albright Lions basketball. My name is Joe Fitzhenry, signing off for the Albright Sports Network. Have a great night, everybody.